We've already talked about several amazing Easter eggs from Toy Story 5 in a previous video, but did you know that Pixar's new movie has so many spectacular details that we still have a lot more to talk about? Jessie spent years feeling sad after being forgotten by Emily, her former owner, so it was a wonderful surprise to discover that after growing up, Emily named her own daughter Jessie in honor of her. The scene is so emotional that many people didn't even notice something rather curious about Emily's daughter. The girl is blonde, and she looks a lot like Riley from Inside Out. Pixar really loves referencing its own movies, but could this be more than just an Easter egg and actually a clue that Riley's family has some connection to Emily's family? If Emily were Riley's aunt, that would explain why her daughter looks so much like the main character from Inside Out. We're just getting started because this is only the first of 19 new details and Easter eggs that you missed in Toy Story 5. So grab your popcorn and get comfy on the couch. Another Cinewave is starting. The Multi-Buzz Army, made up of more advanced versions of Buzz Lightyear, was one of the funniest additions to the movie, mainly because even though they're far more technologically advanced, they still believe they're space adventurers just like the original Buzz Lightyear from the first film. And it's amazing to watch the original Buzz convince them to help Jessie, but the best part is when he tells them that Emperor Zurg, Buzz Lightyear's arch-enemy, is their father, causing all of them to scream in despair. Anyone who watched Toy Story 2 knows that this is a reference to one of the funniest scenes in the movie, where a Zurg toy and a Buzz Lightyear toy are fighting, and the Emperor reveals that he is Buzz's father. In fact, this is a double reference because both scenes parody an even older classic film, Star Wars: The Empire Strikes Back, where Darth Vader reveals that he is Luke Skywalker's father, and the hero reacts just as dramatically as Buzz does. Yep, Luke and Buzz have a lot in common. Speaking of Jessie, it's impossible to forget the most shocking scene in Toy Story 5, when Jessie kisses Buzz Lightyear, officially making them a couple after the astronaut spent the entire movie trying to propose to her. But it's worth mentioning that Buzz's feelings for Jessie weren't invented for this movie. Ever since Toy Story 2, there have been signs that he was attracted to the cowgirl, with Buzz Lightyear being left speechless when he first saw her, for example. After all these years, Pixar finally decided to bring the two together. There's an Easter egg that has appeared in Pixar movies ever since the very first Toy Story, and we're talking about the Pizza Planet truck. Since that movie, it has continued showing up in many other Pixar animations, whether in Toy Story sequels or in completely different productions made by the studio. And of course, we see the yellow truck return in this film, appearing in the scene where Jessie leaves the farm to go after Lily Pad. Pixar may have a lot of respect for its own history, but the studio would have to be pretty arrogant to reference only itself, and that's why some Easter eggs reference completely different franchises that have nothing to do with Pixar or Disney. When Jessie meets Smarty Pants, the sheriff notices that he's made by a brand called Eggman. That name might sound random, but Sonic fans know very well that Eggman is the nickname of Dr. Robotnik, the arch-enemy of the fastest hedgehog in the world. But Sonic isn't the only gaming franchise referenced here. In the scene where Lily Pad starts opening various games that appear on her screen, we see some very interesting things, such as a game called Crystal Realm, where several crystals are grouped together in a way that looks a lot like the visual style of the mobile game Candy Crush. It's one of the most played games on mobile devices such as phones and tablets, so it makes perfect sense to reference it here. In that same scene, another game that makes an appearance is called Prance Prance, and it features a girl dancing on the cover, suggesting that it's some kind of dance or rhythm game. This seems to be a parody of Just Dance, the most famous dance game franchise in the industry. Both the theme and the visual style of this game are extremely similar to those of Just Dance, so it would be very strange to say that this is just a huge coincidence. So what do you think? Could this really be an amazing reference? So are you enjoying these incredible references? If so, leave a comment below with #LilyPad so we know you're here. When Jessie arrives at the house that once belonged to Emily, she meets the toys of the child who lives there now, Blaze. The most important toys are Smarty Pants, Atlas, and Snappy, but we also meet a few others, such as a pizza wearing glasses. He barely gets any screen time, but his design is practically identical to Pizza Steve, a character from the Cartoon Network show Uncle Grandpa. Seriously, it's the exact same look, down to the smallest detail. Jessie proves what a true leader she is when she uses the abilities of several different electronic toys to track down Lilypad and go after her with her friends. One of the most important toys in finding the tablet was Atlas, since he's a GPS. The funny part is that when the group finally finds Lilypad, Atlas says, "We have arrived at our destination," just like a real GPS would. By the way, a GPS is a device usually used in cars to help drivers figure out which roads to take to reach their destination. And even though this next Easter egg has absolutely nothing to do with a GPS, it has everything to do with a car. We're talking about the car driven by the elderly couple who find Jesse and Bullseye lying on the ground. The wheel of the vehicle features the Volkswagen logo, a very famous car brand. Yeah, that's one reference nobody was expecting. Woody's return was spectacular, and nobody can argue with that. One of the funny things about it is that he came back wearing a poncho, a very stylish type of cloak that fits perfectly with his Old West cowboy look. What few people noticed is that this poncho looks a lot like the scarf Emily wore around her neck during the flashback at the beginning of the movie. You could even say that somehow Woody found Emily's scarf and turned it into a poncho. Some scenes from the movie were shown during the marketing campaign, but in a slightly different way. Take the scene where Bonnie spends the entire night using Lilypad under her blanket while the toys watch. In the concept art released when details about the movie first started being announced, Woody is standing right there among the other toys. Meanwhile, in the final version of the scene that appears in the movie, the cowboy isn't there at all. After all, he hadn't even returned to Bonnie's house when this takes place, so it wouldn't have made any sense. This suggests that it took a while for the filmmakers to decide when and how Woody would reunite with his friends. Some people thought Lilypad was going to be a completely cruel villain, but that wasn't the case. Even though she did many things wrong, her true goal was simply to help Bonnie make friends, in her own way. When she realizes that she caused Bonnie to be bullied by the other girls, she becomes so disappointed in herself that she throws herself into a donation box. The detail is that this box is identical to the one Jesse was placed in when Emily donated her. This shows how the two characters, despite not liking each other, are more alike than they first appear. Fortunately for Bonnie, there are still kids who love to play, like Blaze. Blaze's room is filled mainly with horse toys. She lives on a farm and has a real horse, so it makes perfect sense that she likes them so much. However, not all of her toys are ordinary horses. She also has ponies, which may be a reference to the cartoon My Little Pony. Those horses will certainly have a great time during the games and adventures that Bonnie and Blaze will share together. Looking at it that way, Bullseye could really become friends with them too. The subscribe button is right there, waiting for you. How about clicking and keeping up with everything we post? In fact, there's a detail involving these horses that shows just how much attention Pixar pays to every little thing when creating its movies. When Blaze wakes up the day after the movie's main events, you can see several tiny horse hoof prints scattered across the floor of her bedroom, because all of the horses had gone riding with Jesse's group the day before without Blaze ever noticing. By the way, the game that Blaze plays with Jesse, Bullseye, and her toys is a crazy parody of classic action and spy movies. James Bond and Mission Impossible are the first two franchises that come to mind when watching this scene, but we can be absolutely sure that similar moments happen in about 90% of all spy movies. Okay, let's not exaggerate, 80%. Technology has taken over everything in our world, and the story of Toy Story 5 reflects that perfectly. It's no coincidence that the movie begins by showing a Buzz Lightyear box with the words High Tech Edition printed on it. That means this Buzz, along with all the others who are part of the Multi-Buzz army, are far more technologically advanced than the original Buzz Lightyear. The moment it became clear that the movie would focus on the romance between Buzz Lightyear and Jessie happens right in the wedding scene between Forky and Karen Beverly at the beginning of the film. After catching the bouquet, Buzz looked over at Jessie because he was already thinking about the idea of proposing to her. After all, people say that whoever catches the bride's bouquet will be the next person to get married. In fact, when the sheriff looked in his direction, he got embarrassed and hid the bouquet. It seems that Buzz didn't realize Jessie was happy to see him holding it, but from that moment on, it was obvious to anyone paying close attention that Jessie had feelings for him too. Near the end of the movie, we get the incredible wedding scene between Buzz and Jessie. This time, the one who catches the flower bouquet is none other than Bo Peep, Woody's girlfriend. In other words, there's a very good chance that we could see the franchise's former main character finally get married in a possible Toy Story 6. That would be fantastic, and it's hard not to get excited about seeing that wedding become a reality. The fun doesn't stop here. There are 2 amazing videos waiting for you on the screen. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.